Ginga ginga.
Hello everybody, Infinite Shinjo here, and welcome back to episode 50 of Let's Talk Anime. Honestly, it's hard to believe that I've managed to make 50 episodes of this, but you guys keep giving me requests, so I'll keep on doing it. And in this one, let me just start off. So we're starting with School Live, which, being an older anime, I feel like it's fitting for it to start episode 50 off. So, School Live, wait, not School Live, School Rumble. Did I call it School Live before? I hope I didn't. So this is definitely not that. But School Rumble is, I don't know the exact year, but it came out early 2000s. I think it's a lot of anime watchers' first anime. I can only assume it is. I'm just not sure about the exact date, but basically you got, I'm not even gonna mention characters' names because I won't remember many of them, but you got the girl in the middle. I seriously don't remember her name, but she likes this kid that looks like Mob Psycho 100, which is interesting. But then you got Harima. Funny enough, he's the first character that I actually remember, but she likes the kid that looks like Mob Psycho. Harima likes her, and it turns into a whole love triangle, which at the same time, Mob Kid just doesn't look like he's interested in anything. And you got all these fun characters out here. You got Eri Sawachika. The only reason I can remember her is because I looked up her picture for the thumbnail. Karen Kujo's in Kindy Mosaic. I think her name is Karen, the green hair girl. I really like her character. But then you got like all of these characters which are kind of stereotypes in a way. Like you got the rich girl, you got the tomboy, you got the character that's deadpan. Not sure why every anime has to have a character that's deadpan, but here we go. But it's actually not that bad of a watch. If anything, I don't remember exactly what I gave it on Mal, but it's a very solid anime. At the same time, it's a lot of just character interactions at the end of the day. And I feel like if it would have went on for more than 2 seasons, then it might have started getting stale. Because it wasn't until, maybe midway season 1, where Harima and Eri just started getting their interactions that just ended up in horrible conflicts that just seem horrible out of context. But then, like, all these characters are good, but a lot of them are just kind of one note in a way. But at the same time, a lot of it is still fun to watch. Like, the biggest draw I would say for this is the comedy. Because the comedy is really what you watch the show for. Because the love triangle really is secondary for the most part. There are even some episodes where characters don't even show up. But one joke I can remember right now, I don't remember the context of it, but the main dude that likes the girl is named Harima Kenji. In one episode, there's a mistaken situation that happens somewhere in an episode, I can't remember where. So instead of Harima Kenji, you get Hari Mackenzie. And the first time I watched that, I just had to bust out laughing because that's just like, yeah, this show seems like it would do something like that. And the comedy is good, but at the same time, the negative for that is a lot of the comedy just boils down to the same jokes just told in a different fashion. Like, they've probably had multiple episodes focused on Harima and Eri having their out of context discussions or whatever. A lot of the comedy is just kind of weird. Oh wait, I think I just remembered. The green hair girl that I was talking about earlier, I think her name is Karen Ichijo or something, because I can just hear that girl that becomes her friend screaming it in my head right now. And if I can find a clip, I might find it, but if I don't worry about it. While the show is pretty solid at times, it actually does go through development. Like, you got Harima, who likes the main girl, but we have also an interaction between him and her sister, and Harima being like a manga drawer or something like that. You got all these different facets that they start delving into in the second season. Even having some scenes of Harima and Eri being kind of heartwarming near the end of it. But the one thing that I didn't like is that the show starts on the basis of a love triangle, but it kind of doesn't near the end. Like, there are still some moments where the love triangle is in effect, but overall it just doesn't get mentioned for a dozen episodes at a time sometimes. And not to mention, I mentioned this earlier, that the kid that looks like Mob Psycho is very bland. Like, I actually would have preferred it if he would have been like an alien or whatever they joked about in that one episode. If he was actually an alien and they followed through with that, I would actually be down to watch more of it. But obviously, I did watch both seasons of this, so I do have a right to say that it is very solid. Although at the same time, it's making me wonder, if it came out in recent times, would it be remembered as well? Or is it just remembered that fondly because it's an older anime, and that's what got people into anime? Overall, I'd say 7 out of 10, maybe 8 out of 10 watch, but 20 some episodes for both seasons is a lot to go through. But let me jump to the next thing, which is Date Alive, which this is very interesting because just like kind of Pop Team Epic did in the last episode, I did kind of watch a little bit of it and then just stopped way before I recorded these videos. I don't know what compelled me to watch Date Alive, but I did. I only watched like maybe 1-2 episodes, so I didn't watch as many as I did here. Here I watched 3 episodes of it. No, I watched 4 episodes of it. I'll get into that later. But since it's something that I'm going into kind of blind, I did write down a couple of notes about it that's not a pro or a con. So I don't really remember much about the show from when I watched it before. I do remember the girl with the clock in her eye. I think her name is Kurumi or something. She wasn't in any of the episodes that I watched, but I recognize her just from design because, let's be real, that's an iconic design. And another thing I actually forgot is the plot twist of Kojiri being in charge of this special operation thing. I remember that she was the sister, obviously, but I actually forgot that plot twist of it. But I watched through the first 3 episodes, and the rabbit girl was shown in the episode preview for episode 4, and I figured, well, I really like the rabbit girl's design. Like I mentioned in the last episode, I like characters with blue hair, so I watched episode 4. And just based off of the design that she gives off, I can get the feeling that she's shy, because you got the pulled over hoodie, you got the sad looking expression. Most of the time with stuff like that, that's a shy character. I don't know if that's actually true or not, because she barely said anything in this episode. But I feel like my guess isn't too far off the mark. Let me talk to you, before I get into the negatives and the positives, let me talk to you about who has decided to grace us with her presence on the thumbnail. Miss Tokamine. Like, I'm kind of saying this as a meme in a way, but I'm kind of not. That I like how, first of all, they have the characters' names, it shows their age, a couple of random facts about them. And so when Miss Tokamine came out, I literally had to pause because her age is 28 or 29, so she is not that older than me. And that's actually wild to think because she is a full-fledged teacher. So I could be a teacher at this point if I really wanted to. And at the same time, she's not that older than me. So, you know, maybe a top tier waifu. I don't know. Although maybe not, because she does go kind of crazy when you bring up marriage. So maybe not. But the things I liked about it is the concept is really unique. Like, it's almost like they threw a dart at a dartboard and they decided to just go with what they landed on. Because you got, what are they called? Earthquakes? Not earthquakes. Earth tremors. It's something like that. Kind of like an earthquake, but it's not called an earthquake. That brings these magical girls to the world, and then it just turns into a dating sim. And the dating sim that his friend plays is what they use for support and whatever. So like if they need to come up with an answer to, like, say giving Tamaka her name or whatever, they have the people that are actually playing the game come up with it, which is kind of hilarious. Now if you'll just let me talk about Miss Tokamine a little bit more, I really like the dub performance that she gives in episode 2 when Shido is practicing flirting. I know the name, I'm gonna pronounce it horribly anyway. It's like Anaris Kyo something or whatever. I'll put the name on the screen, but I recognize the name, but the performance that they give for Miss Tokamine is really spot on. She really kind of goes into that whole kind of crazy girlfriend sort of role. The other thing I like, even though it's not really a major thing with this anime, is the comedy. The comedy is really good. Now, I already mentioned before that I watched the dub of this, so I'm not sure if this is how it is in the original, but at the start of episode 3, the narrator is going through what's going to happen in the episode. I'm assuming he does that for each episode, but I like when he talked about, like, the world might be in danger, and because Shido's going on a date, the narrator also says his wallet might be in danger, and I just chuckled at that because it gives me vibes of the Kaguya-sama narrator, where even though the narrator is just supposed to narrate, do his job or whatever, they do throw in that comedy in it as well, and I really like that. The thing I'm kind of torn on is characters being deadpan. Like I already mentioned in School Rumble, the girl that's just always deadpan, just no expression whatsoever. But so far I do like Origami's character, because unlike the character from School Rumble, Origami actually has some depth to her. Like she has the backstory with the tremors with the fire and killing her parents or whatever. And so far I kind of like the dynamic of her trying to push herself onto Shido, where you got Toka at the same time. Now the things I didn't like. First of all, and this is the major obvious one, the fan service in this episode. Or in general, for the first 3 episodes. Like, fan service could be done tasteful, but like, they literally have panty shots any chance that they can get an opportunity. And I'm just kind of wondering why? Like, I mean, I get that it's probably an ecchi anime if I had to take a guess. But like, why would you go out of your way to show scenes like that? But overall, I would say it's not that bad of an anime. It's just kind of unfortunate that they have 3 seasons out right now, because that means there'll be a lot for me to catch up on. But let me wrap up this episode with Mirai Nikki. Although, if you saw the thumbnail, then you've probably seen this coming. That or you have a future diary, I don't know. All jokes aside, I know the bare minimum of Mirai Nikki. Like, the only thing I know is Yuno Gasai, and that's just because her picture is plastered everywhere. I was working on my top 10 pink-haired anime characters, she was everywhere. And being an anime character in the 2000s, that's not surprising. But all I knew about it is Yuno Gasai is a yandere. That's all that I knew. And the only note that I wrote for the show itself when I was watching it is, I'm really wondering now, is this where the term Deus Ex Machina come from? Like, I hear people talk about, like, if a character just escapes a bad situation or they overcome something, just a miracle happens, people call it a Deus Ex Machina. But there's a character, I guess you could call it a character, maybe a god, I guess, better way to put it, in this episode that is literally called Deus Ex Machina. So I'm really wondering if that's where the phrase comes from. I wouldn't be surprised if it does. But I'm not going to go through like what happens in this because it's an early anime. People probably know what it's about anyway. But I only saw the first episode of this because after that I felt like I got a general idea of what it is. So you got this kid, Amino, that uses a flip phone, of all things, and I guess it was just the times, to write in a diary about his life. And then one day, it just turns into a future diary. He gets to see things that happen in the future, and at the same time, if he avoids a certain situation, then it could change the future. And then it just turns into Magical Girl Raising Project. Because in Magical Girl Raising Project, you got this group of girls that have to take out each other, and one of them is basically a god at that point. So it's kind of similar to that, although it's interesting because if you can see the future coming, then you know when the end is going to happen. So it's kind of tricky because you could also avoid it, or you could fall into another trap. But all that I can really say is it's a cool concept with seeing the future through your cell phone. The only thing I can say is it's a shame that it's wasted on a survival game like this. Like, the cell phone diary thing is cool in its own right, but the survival aspect just really not needed. You could really make this another anime, in my opinion. Now, granted, that's not how this anime was made, but like, I've watched a lot of survival anime. I would consider Madoka Magica sort of a survival anime. Magical Girl Raising Project, I already mentioned that. Darwin's Game, I watched that for Let's Talk Anime. So, seeing another survival game anime, it's kind of on the oversaturation as Isekai is at this point. Like, I would love to see this concept of seeing the future through your cell phone done in another way that's not a survival game, because that's starting to get overdone in my opinion. But overall, as far as the anime goes from the first episode, it's not bad. I feel like it's like School Rumble I mentioned before. If I would have watched it back in the day, then I'd probably like it more, but I didn't, so it's just kind of okay. In all honesty, I still don't get the big ol' hype over Yuno Gasai. I mean, she is a good character with pink hair. I haven't seen the full extent of her character yet, but I just like my characters upbeat without feeling like a psychopath. Crazy opinion, I know. But that is going to be it for this episode of Let's Talk Anime. If you have any suggestions, let me know by leaving them in the comment section. I'll get to them when I get to them. Let me know your thoughts on any of the anime that I discussed here, and I will see you in the next episode. Momentai.